Flat Earth Clues, Part 12. Real Eyes. This is part of a series of clues that can help you get your head around both the design of the flat Earth system we live in and who has been involved in the deception to hide it from you. This clue covers an enclosed system feature, which for me at first seemed like just a necessary aspect of the process. That being what we perceive with our own eyes, because for many, that's the validation we need. Can seeing things with our eyes really be trusted, though? The more I looked into it, the more it became apparent that they cannot. In fact, it became obvious that as a species, we seem to have layers of cognitive weakness, especially when it comes to optical perception, like it was built into our very genetic code. Layers that naturally help things like hiding the shape of the world. I'm going to show you some examples, and before this clue ends, you'll know why everyone else around you is missing the big picture and just how rare you are to realize it. For example, what is this object? It's your world. This is where you live. You know it as certain as anything else that's given, like gravity, temperature, and touch. But you can't touch or see your world like this. So if I take this image away, how do you still know? Anyone who has followed the clues so far know that I, for the most part, just use some slides and a narrative. But some of the best optical examples are moving illusions. So for better or worse, I'll be including small sections of video into this clue to help drive home the point. So let's start with a dramatic entrance, something you can relate to. This is for all the questions regarding the sky and how things can be accomplished. To this, I have to remind people using a Truman Show example, where the director, living in the moon structure, cues the sun. Keep in mind this is a very small enclosed system. If the sun, moon, and stars can be reproduced here, imagine what you could do with a dome 1,000 times larger, using technology far beyond ours. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, like the mice in Clue 4. We should start with something small, because the small stuff is easy to figure out, right? Take this spinning ballerina, for example. If I say that she's spinning on her left foot before you look, then she might spin on her left foot. If you look away and I now say she's spinning on her right, then when you look again, she might be spinning on her right. But try to change her direction while staring directly at her, and it becomes much more difficult. Did I change her graphic? Is it magic or witchcraft? Not at all. How the girl is animated gives your mind the choice of how she's spinning. You just need a starting point. So you say, well, that's an animation, just a clever trick. So I show you this still picture of a match and its shadow against the wall. Notice anything missing? Like the shadow of the flame itself? Your mind wants it to be there, but it isn't. Everything casts a shadow, right? Your eyes want the image to include the flame's shadow, even though logic tells you the pure light source can't have one. And then there's the famous dress, which in real life is blue and black, but how it's photographed gives the human mind an option of seeing it in gold and white. You know what color it is because you can see it. But if someone else sees a completely different color, then who's correct? If everyone in the room sees black and you see gold, are you wrong because you're in the minority? And what does that say about possible illusions that can be tailored to a small group of people? Or just you? Human eyes are easy to manipulate. Take this classic example. If you pause the video and stare at the 4 dots in the center for 30 seconds, then turn away and look at something white, then you will see a residual image of a bearded man. But that's not the trick. It's that the residual image is in color, even though you are staring at something black and white, showing you that your eyes can be conditioned in a relatively short amount of time. And speaking of black and white, let's see if you can avoid a simple distraction. Focus on white and try to see how many passes are made by the white-colored team. Can you tune out everything else and count the number of white passes? You're confident that the total number of passes is 13. And congratulations, you would be correct. But this wasn't about the number of passes. It was about the bigger distraction. By following the white team, you are ignoring the black team, and moreover, everything black, so you failed to see the dancing black bear that was right in front of you. Don't worry, I didn't see it either the first time, and being that you now know how it's done, you can't be fooled again, right? Rewind and try it, still focusing on the number of passes, and see if you can catch the bear. It's harder than you might think. Many people will see this dragon and think it's a computer-generated effect. It's actually very real, but the illusion only works from certain angles. If you walk too far one way or the other, you can see behind the illusion. If you cannot see behind the scenes, your mind can't break out of the illusion, no matter how hard you try. And this then leads us back to something that shouldn't be a trick, but is. It's called the Mercator map. And you say that it's not a deception, it's a real map. How do you know this? Because it was on a wall in your school classroom? All geographers in the world know that this map is very wrong. The correct perspective is this, the Gall-Peters. It shows countries how they actually are in comparison to each other. This is the map that should be in schools right now, but the authority thinks you'll be more comfortable with the old map. You say that they aren't that much different, that at least the location is correct, right? Take a look at the size of Europe and where Germany is.
Wait. Relative size is one thing, but you're telling me that Germany isn't where we think it is?
Nothing's where you think it is.
Where is it?
I'm glad you asked. The Peters projection.
It has fidelity of axis.
Fidelity of position.
East-west lines are parallel and intersect north-south axes at right angles.
What the hell is that?
It's where you've been living this whole time. Should we continue?
We assume, like many things, that what is presented to us is the truth, because we want to believe. And I mean that literally. Human beings as a species are designed to believe what they see. It's called suspension of disbelief. Think you're immune to this disbelief process? Why do you get emotional when watching a movie? You know it's a movie. You know that you're watching just a two-dimensional image on a screen. You've seen the actors before, many times in other films. And you know that the process to make the film took hundreds of people and millions of dollars to create. But if the story is convincing enough, you will forget all that, at least for a while, and be swept up in the moment. But enough tricks. What about real life? Without all the sleight of hand and distraction, you should be able to determine everything as it really is, right? Don't be so sure. Ever driven a car in stop-and-go traffic, zoned out for a bit, then had that horrifying feeling that you couldn't tell if your car was moving or the car next to you was moving? That happens to all humans. University studies on motion perception have been done for years, and they determined if the movement was smooth enough, human beings couldn't tell the difference between our motion and the motion of other objects. This applies to cars, trains, basically any vehicle you may be in. maybe even one as large as the world itself. To be clear, you can't really tell if your car or train is moving. No one can. It's an assumption. So now tell me that you can feel your world spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and rushing around the sun at 60 times that speed. Your world isn't spinning or moving forward, only the sky is. And even that isn't real. The stars spin, the moon circles, as does the sun, all of it built with great craft and precision to create the illusion that you are isolated in a vast universe to fend for yourself, which is not the case. Or, in short, we were designed to believe, to accept the illusions as reality, so that an enclosed system could be built around us, and we could live in it without the burden of confinement. And for those of you who still haven't used their real eyes yet, here's one more trick. See if you can solve it.